Hi. So last week I was asked by the school I began my training at if I would be interested in leading a class. So I recorded the class, and that's what we're going to go over this week is what I covered in that class. It was very kind of them, and I'm very thankful that they let me do that. The class is going to be focused on how to not push into a forest, basically how to move around it. And we're going to try and work on that. We don't have a partner, so I came up with a different way of creating a directional force that you have to move around. All right, let's get to it. For this set of exercises, you're going to need a Joe or a stick. You can use a Boken if you want, and a fairly strong wall or a door frame, basically something you can press that into. And at the very end, you'll need an unstable surface to stand on. All right, to begin, we're going to just take the Joe or stick, whatever, place it against your body, and press it into the wall. During this, you can work on different ways to press. You can try pulling with your feet, pushing with your feet, like pushing up off the ground. You can try turning your hip in, try just straight leaning, try bend, like trying to push into the ground to go forward. There are lots of different ways you can try. And you're going to want to try different points on your body also, and different directions. Right now, this is just to get used to feeling a very direct force on your body. This is all just set up and basically dialing in how you're feeling, how things are working. And during this, you will probably notice that placing it on muscle is way more, it feels better than placing it on bone. Sorry, it took a second to come up with a word there. If you have the weirdly shaped wall like I do, you could try the downward angles or upward angles. Like I said, just all over your body. So you can see, can you push the same way if it's on your leg or on your shoulder, or if you want to try even more difficult things, you can try your neck, you can try your head. Just be careful. Don't hurt yourself. And what I'm hoping is that this will simulate to some degree a person pushing you. Can't really do pulling, but at least pushing, or a strike hitting in a direction to a small degree. Then, of course, when that happens, you have lots of different options. You can try and meet force with force, knowing that from a physics point of view, you've now at least doubled the force that's occurring at a specific point. You can try absorbing it, you can try going around it. That's from the practical point of view once you actually start using this. Yeah, I'm basically just telling people to try, behind you to each side, try it off on an angle so it's not exactly to the side or behind you. Something you'll probably notice if it's on the side, it's hard to press with your hip. Well, the degree at which you can press is different. because it's what, maybe half the distance. I'm showing you can try things like the neck or the head. You can also try like your arms and your hands, and those are going to be different. So once you're comfortable with all this, then we're going to move on to the next exercise. Basically do that for as long as you need to till it makes sense. So for this exercise, just whatever your natural movement is to get around a force, use that. And it should be a largish motion at this point. Here I'm showing mostly Tenkan and Arimi because it's an Aikido class, and those are movements that are really kind of ingrained. You'll notice my whole body moves. And when you try around the waist, be careful. Don't hurt yourself. And just like in the first exercise, try all different positions, all different heights, different parts of the body, and try and see how it works for you. As you can tell, for some of them, I'm having difficulty maintaining the pressure as I move. And then if you get tired of things like Tenkan or Arimi, do other motions. Basically any motion that you practice. And I'm trying to turn around the point of impact or point of force. And the stick just makes it really clear where that is. There on the leg, just have to grab it so it doesn't fall to the ground immediately, but not so good. You can try. So that one was off to the side, closer to something like in Ikkyo. Really, for most of these exercises, we're trying to get rid of the habit to just push into the force more so. Because with something like a Jo, or if you're using a Boken, that's going to hurt after a while. All right, so now we're going to break it down into specific ways of entering. For this, I want the hips to move first. It'll lead the motion. This is something that in Aikido most people are really familiar with. It's a great way to move. As we'll see later on, it's not the only way to move. but it is a great way and it can generate a lot of power. So right now that's the first one we're focusing on, largely because people will understand it the most. So the hip moves in, the body comes with. You can try any action you want with it. Some will definitely work better than others, but that's what exploration is. It's not an answer, just a means. Here I'm trying to show that, so in Aikido we tend to turn one direction or the other, but you can also go over it and under it using the hips. And then, of course, any variation thereof of over, under, and left, right, and you know, the whole airplane skit. And there I'm playing a little bit with not having to turn quite as much, because you can turn half of your hip and release it enough that everything can move in. You can turn completely, you can go under, again, like that one. Lots of choices. Just play with it. Right now I'm moving in. You can also move away if you wanted. That's an option. For this it'll be a little difficult because the stick will just drop. But you should probably try each way, right? The more ways that you know how to do something, better off you are. If you know how to enter and you know how to escape, then the more you learn about either one should give you more information about the other also. I'm not really a big fan of absolutes. As this next part specifically says. So here it was, whatever you found yourself doing a lot, change it. If you found yourself doing a rimi all the time, do 10 count. If you found yourself doing 10 count all the time, do a rimi. If you found yourself stepping to the side, step to the other side, cross over, like one leg over the other, move your hip out and around if you're always going in. Basically, break up your habits so that you get more information. The more information you have, the more you should understand things. If you only ever do something one way, then you only ever know how to do it one way. And that's kind of a problem. Sorry about that. And yeah, I mean, you might become very good at a single way of doing something. But what happens if the situation's different? I can't think of anything that always works. Which is why trying things that look silly, like going under it or going over it, give you more information. Give you another way of doing something. If somebody's pushing high on you and you go underneath, makes life a lot easier than just trying to turn around it or go above it or whatever. If they're coming in really hard, maybe you don't want to go in. Maybe you want to escape. Maybe you want to retreat. And knowing how to do that's good. So even in this exercise, if you find yourself doing the same new motion all the time, change it. And know what you're changing so that you have good information. But change it and see how things are, how your body is reacting. This applies not just to the motion here of the hips, but also how you're pressing into the wall. Are you pulling with your feet? Are you pushing with your feet? Are you leaning? Are you pushing your hip in, etc.? Change them to get more information. And I will end the rant there. Sorry. I really need like 80s workout music to be going on in the background here for the silences. And there you saw like your decisions might not always work. That's also more information. So it's a good thing. Don't expect everything to always work. So now we're going to try and reduce our motion a bit. So wherever the point of contact is, that muscle or joint moves first to release everything, and then you move in. So that way different parts of your body are dealing with different things. Like there, right? The top of the leg moved so that the rest of the body can move in. There, the hip turned out so the rest of the body could move in. Here, my lower back tries to move so the rest of my body can move in. That didn't quite work. But if you're truly trying to figure things out, it doesn't always. So there, the abs turned in and around it so the rest of the body can move. There, the shoulder just moved back a little. I'm trying to figure out how to do that without the stick just straight dropping, so that I can keep contact with it as the rest of my body moves in. The purpose of that is if you're doing something like Aikido, if the person doesn't realize that the situation's changed, but it has, then you're in an advantageous spot normally. Like it normally helps you out, assuming you moved well. So like there, I was able to keep the force on the stick long enough that my arm could get to it as I was moving around it. There, not so good. There, I preemptively go for it. Right, so there, the rib cage moves around the stick, so the rest of the body is free. There, it just moved to one side. If you can, really try lots of different positions and way to ways to move around it. And if you can, try different angles. Try different angles. All right, so when that gets boring, start trying to lead with your lower body. So your lower body moves in and your upper body yields in whatever way it needs to, which will be more difficult probably if you put the Joe lower. So I would recommend trying a few that are higher up at first, and then you can try like on the hips and on the legs. And just like all the other exercises, try as many different positions as possible. That means the side and the back and variations of that. So here that's on the leg. So how do I move the lower body in? I basically have the one leg yield a little bit, move around, and then everything moves in. Or the other leg just moves in. Which is probably an easier way. I mean, just like we're doing lower body leads, you could do another set of exercises where the upper body leads, or the right half of your body, or the left half of your body. It's basically just to figure out different ways to move your body around a force that comes in, and to start training the instinct to not just press into something. Unfortunately, we have to press a little bit right now because we don't have another partner to press into us. So we need some kind of stimulus, but hopefully this can still help can still help build the reaction of not just pressing into it more. So we press until it's uncomfortable, and then we find a way around it. And hopefully later, once we get to work with partners again, we reduce the comfort level of the press so that less force is comfortable, that we move around it sooner, basically. And here I'm showing you can even put it on the arms. Which is something that tends to get skipped a little bit. All right, so now we're going to bring our unstable surface into this. And to begin, just get used to balancing on it. This is just to dial in and see where our balance is. So on one leg, switch your legs when you feel like it. And only do it for as long as you need. Once you're fairly comfortable with it, basically move on. this part, not that exciting. Sorry, need like little fireworks or something. All right, so assuming you're comfortable with it, now you go get the stick again, and on your unstable surface, you try and figure out ways to press. And can you do all the same ways that you could when you're on a very stable surface? Can you pull your foot forward? Can you turn your hip in? Can you push off your heel, push off your toes, etc.? And just like all the other exercises, try it from every position you can. Figure out what muscles you're using. Figure out if you can use other muscles. Like most of the exercises I put up, they're an exploration of body control and body awareness. Because theoretically, if you get good at both of those, it doesn't matter what art you study. You can apply it to everything. And you'll see I'm moving my unstable surface around so that I'm close enough that I can still press into the wall a little bit. And once you're fairly comfortable with it, then move on. And there, it fell. So now we're going to work on moving in, basically. So we get on our unstable surface, we press, and we find a way to move in. For this, I find moving less of your body to go around the stick is easier than doing large motions, but try everything. And this is going to be the only exercise that we do on this surface like this, but any of the previous ones could be done also, if it's of interest to you. And during this, remember, not only should you be playing with different ways to move in, you should be playing with different ways to push, and see if that changes what ways you move in. It might not. If you have a more stable side of your unstable surface, you can always change it to the less stable side if you want more complexity. And you may find that sometimes just standing is difficult. Yeah, just finding a way to stand and press. And yeah, you can just release back, then the stick just drops. Which, if it were partner practice, I would say most definitely try just escaping. Back up, see what you can do. Moving in to take the advantage has perks, but so does backing up. Just different ways to do things. And the more tools you got, better off you are. And there, I'm just releasing and then slowly moving in to see if I could be a little more conscious about my motion instead of just falling inward, which I was doing earlier on. And then after you've done that for a while, go back to just on a regular stable surface and see if anything's changed. Is it easier for you? Hopefully it is. Like, we build up the complexity so that normal situations are easy. Or at least that's the hope. I mean, we also do it so that you don't just keep solving the problem in the same way that you've always solved it. Ideally, approaching these things in situations you're not used to gives you new ways to think about everything that you do in your standard situations. It's like for all of this, when you're doing technique and you feel resistance, you now have different ways to move, different ways to think about it. When you get hit, maybe you tense up to stop everything, or maybe you let that part go. Different things for different times. And yeah, so this was basically the whole class. Hopefully it helped them. Hopefully it helps those of you who are watching this. Hopefully at least gives people something else to think about. All right. Thanks for watching. Until next time.